They will call you heartless. They will mock your silence. They will fear your mind, once they realize it cannot be molded by their stupidity. But in a world where noise is mistaken for wisdom, and the blind lead the blind into burning ruins, your silence is power. Your refusal to play the fool's game is your first ascent. You rise not by pleasing, not by pleading, but by perceiving what they can't. That most people are far too distracted, too emotional, too deluded to ever truly understand power, let alone seize it. That is your opportunity. That is your throne. You don't need a perfect world to dominate. In fact, you thrive in a broken one. Fools create chaos, and chaos creates gaps. Gaps only the cunning dare to fill. The louder the crowd, the easier it is to whisper your way to the top. You don't interrupt their circus. You learn to orchestrate it. You don't argue with the blind. You quietly take the reins and lead them where you wish to go. Power is not taken from the capable. It is abandoned by the ignorant. And the wise are never loud about it when they pick it up. First, you must shed the need to be understood. Fools crave validation, crave applause, crave the illusion of being right. Let them rot in that performance. Your task is different. You observe in silence. You listen to their lies. You count their mistakes. Every outburst, every contradiction, every impulsive action is a doorway. They reveal themselves. And you remain unreadable, for the unreadable man is untouchable, and the untouchable man becomes the one they fear, even if they don't know why. Second, detach from their morality. It's a performance, not a principle. Most people act good only when being watched, only when it costs them nothing. Their goodness is a currency they trade for reputation, not a code they die for. Don't buy into that illusion. True power requires moral flexibility. If your principles keep you weak, they're not principles, they're chains. A wise man doesn't become evil, he becomes effective. And effectiveness will be demonized by fools because it reminds them of what they'll never become. To rise, you must play two games, the one they see and the one they don't. The visible game is image. You wear masks, you nod when expected, you say enough to blend in, but never enough to expose your intent. The invisible game is positioning. You build leverage, gather secrets, store favors, weaken threats, and arrange consequences like a master of war. Let the fools chase praise. You chase placement. You chase influence. You chase options. Power belongs to the man who can act without needing permission. Never underestimate the stupidity of the masses. They believe what they want to believe, not what is true. And this is your greatest weapon, because if truth no longer matters, then control shifts to the master of perception. You don't need to be right. You only need to be believed. Learn how to speak in half-truths. Learn how to use ambiguity as a shield. Let them project their desires onto your words. Let them fill in the blanks with their fantasies. Fools don't think critically. They feel emotionally, and emotion is easier to steer than logic. This is why most men never rise. They are trapped in the prison of their emotions, defending their egos, protecting their insecurities, reacting to every insult like wounded dogs. Don't be that man. Your emotions are tools, not truths. Anger, sadness, pride, these are weapons when controlled, and chains when left unchecked. You rise by remaining centered, cold, collected. A man who smiles in betrayal, who thanks his enemies while planning their fall, who never confesses, only calculates. Look around you. The world is ruled by narratives, not facts. By confidence, not competence. By repetition, not reason. This isn't a tragedy, it's a blueprint. If fools rule by noise, then you must become the master of silence. If they fight for attention, you move in the shadows. The more predictable they become, the more invisible you must be. You don't need to outsmart the world, you only need to outsmart them. And that's not difficult, because most of them are sleepwalking through life, begging for direction, desperate to be led. They mistake kindness for leadership. They confuse attention with respect. And when they see a man who doesn't need their approval, they panic. They call him dangerous. They call him cold. But secretly, they admire him. Because deep down, every fool knows, the one who needs nothing is the one who holds everything. You cannot rise by being liked. You rise by being necessary. And necessity is forged in silence, not noise, in control, not chaos. Watch how they destroy themselves chasing popularity, validation, emotional highs. Let them. You were never meant to join the parade. You were meant to rule over it, silently, invisibly, and without mercy. The fool confuses movement for momentum. He thinks activity is accomplishment. He fills his day with distractions, announcements, declarations, but he never builds anything that lasts. That is your edge. While they move frantically, you move intentionally. Power is not built through noise. It is built through focus. And in a world of scattered minds, focus becomes a superpower. They can't track you if you disappear into discipline. They can't predict you if your silence becomes your structure. Let them waste time. Let them drown in entertainment, gossip, and emotional outbursts. Your path is not theirs. While they obsess over how they're perceived, you work on how you're positioned. Because in the real game of power, visibility is often a trap. The more they see you, the more they think they understand you. And if they think they understand you, they'll think they can stop you. That's why you must never be fully known, only felt. Power moves best when it moves like smoke, ungraspable, untouchable, always present, but never clear. You don't need to correct fools. You need to control outcomes. Let them believe their delusions. It's fuel for your manipulation. A smart man does not argue with weakness. He leverages it. The easiest people to control are the ones who think they're in control. Feed their ego. Echo their beliefs. Let them feel superior. A fool intoxicated with his own voice will never hear your knife being sharpened behind his back. This is the dark truth. Most people are ruled by impulse. They speak before thinking, act before planning, promise before calculating. Their predictability is their curse, but for you, it's a gift. When you understand human impulse, desire, fear, envy, pride, you no longer need to manipulate directly. You simply introduce the right pressure, the right trigger, and they walk themselves into your trap. You don't dominate people. You direct their chaos toward your benefit. Real power doesn't come from being feared or loved. It comes from being needed. You must become the hinge others secretly rely on. Not obviously, not loudly, but quietly and consistently. You solve problems they didn't know they had. You influence decisions from behind the curtain. You build networks, not audiences. The fool wants followers. You want leverage. He wants attention. You want access. He shouts to be seen. You whisper to be obeyed. Don't waste time trying to be understood by a crowd that lives in illusion. Their truths change by the hour, depending on what feels good. You will be called cold, selfish, manipulative. Let them talk. Those are the cries of the powerless, the ones who lost control and now resent anyone who holds it. They want fairness. You want results. They want approval. You want ascendancy. They dream of a better world. You study the broken one and bend it to your will. In the art of rising, there is one law you must never forget. Proximity is power. The closer you are to the decisions that matter, the stronger your influence becomes. Fools chase fame. The wise chase position. Fame is fragile. It fades. It invites enemies. But position builds quietly. Position is the seat at the table, the whisper in the ear, the influence behind the curtain. Never confuse the face of power with its source. The real rulers are rarely the ones on stage. And when it comes to relationships, choose ruthlessly. Most people are walking liabilities, emotional, undisciplined, leaking information through every sentence. You don't need many allies. You need useful ones. Study loyalty, yes, but study betrayal more. Learn the signs, expect it. Design your power in such a way that betrayal becomes a dead end, not a threat. If someone can ruin you, you've already failed. Power is not about trust, it's about control. Control your environment, control your inputs, guard your attention like a fortress. The average mind is a battlefield where chaos wins. But your mind must become a weapon. Sharpen it with solitude. Feed it with strategy. Train it through observation. Every moment you're not reacting, you're calculating. Every time you don't respond, you're gathering data. You rise by knowing more than they think you know, and showing less than they wish you would. This is not about becoming inhuman. It's about becoming disciplined. Coldness is not cruelty. It is clarity. Clarity that emotions are signals, not dictators. That power is maintained through restraint, not explosion. The man who controls himself becomes the man who controls others. Why? Because most of them can't even control their own tongues, their own fears, their own desperate need to belong. You become the exception, and in a world full of chaos, the exception becomes king. You are not here to fit in. You are here to take command, to see through the illusions, to use what is broken, to weaponize what they waste. This world is not fair, but it is open, wide open, for the one who knows how to bend perception, kill emotion, and move with ruthless precision. Fools don't fall. They volunteer for their collapse. And you? You simply step over the ruins they left behind, eyes forward, never stopping. They think power is something declared, worn like a crown, or shouted from a podium. That's how you know they're fools. Real power never announces itself. It doesn't need to. It moves without sound, strikes without warning, and leaves no fingerprints behind. The more invisible your hand, the more complete your control becomes. The ones who rule the world aren't the ones making speeches. They're the ones writing them. You rise not by forcing the world to obey you, but by bending it without resistance. The key isn't dominance, it's direction. Let the fool believe he's free, while you slowly close the gates around him. Let him think he made the decision, while it was you who whispered the idea into his mind weeks before. That is the highest form of power, when they don't even realize you're the one who led them. In a world full of predictable minds, subtlety is supremacy. Why fight battles you can avoid? Why expose plans that work better in the dark? The true Machiavellian never seeks unnecessary conflict. He multiplies his options, lets enemies destroy each other, and steps into the vacuum when the dust settles. He is not a warrior. He is a tactician, and tacticians don't swing swords. They move pieces. And those pieces? They're people, most of them eager to be used, so long as you make them feel important. That's the irony. The easiest way to use someone is to make them believe they're irreplaceable. Feed their ego, mirror their values, let them believe they are leading, when in truth, they are being led straight into your plan. Weak minds want validation more than victory. Give them that, and they'll hand you everything else. You must master the art of suggestion. Never demand, never push. You present ideas like offerings, not commands. You frame decisions so that the path you want them to choose feels like their own. Plant seeds, control the environment, influence their mood. If done correctly, they will believe they acted out of free will and never trace their steps back to you. But you must remain fluid. Never marry one identity. The world expects consistency from fools, not from strategists. If you can adapt, shift, mask yourself to suit the moment, you become a phantom. The moment they think they've understood you, evolve. Confuse them. Disorient them. When they can't predict you, they can't defend against you. Unpredictability is a fortress no one can siege. People crave simplicity. They want clear answers, good versus evil, heroes and villains. Use that need against them. Be whoever they need you to be, just long enough to gain position. You don't need to correct their perception. You need to weaponize it. The truth is irrelevant. Only belief matters. And believe. In the hands of the cunning is the most malleable force on earth. Silence remains your sharpest weapon. Fools expose themselves with every sentence, but the disciplined man holds his tongue like a blade. He lets others reveal their intentions. He lets them think he's naive. He absorbs information like a spy, because every careless word they speak is a crack in their armor. And once you know where the cracks are, you never have to break the wall. You only need to press in the right place. Your presence should be a question mark, not a confession. Keep them guessing. Keep them anxious. The uncertain mind is easy to lead. It looks for stability, for clarity, for guidance. And the man who provides it, even in false form, becomes their shepherd. You don't need to shout orders. You only need to speak with calm confidence in a world that has forgotten what certainty feels like. If someone wrongs you, don't react. Respond with time. Retaliation is not a moment. It's a design. Patience is how you poison without detection. Let the fool think he won. Let him celebrate. Let him relax. Because when he's distracted by his own arrogance, that's when you strike. Not emotionally, but with precision. The most satisfying vengeance is the one served so cold that your enemy doesn't even realize it came from you. Never seek fairness. There's no such thing. There is only leverage, and you build it through silence, knowledge, anticipation. You learn people better than they know themselves. You predict their decisions. You guide their weaknesses. You exploit their patterns. Power is not brute force. It is patient calculation. And every fool who thinks otherwise is a gift, a puppet, a pawn, a prelude to your empire. Your detachment is your clarity. You are not here to feel good. You are here to win. And to win, you must be willing to be misunderstood, to be feared, to be alone. Because the path to power is narrow, not crowded. It is cold, not warm. And it requires that you become something they could never be, controlled, unshakable, strategic to the core. They are desperate to belong. You are designed to rise. You were not born to follow their rules. You were born to study them, only to redesign the game in your favor. And once you understand how easily most men can be swayed, you no longer fear them. You no longer envy them. You begin to see them for what they are. Predictable mechanisms fueled by emotion, approval, and noise. Power belongs to the man who no longer plays by their script, the one who writes his own and forces the world to adapt. Do not waste your mind trying to awaken others. Most people enjoy their delusion. They find comfort in being led, even if it's toward a cliff. Let them march. Let them cheer. Let them believe they're free. Because in their celebration, they never notice the hand that gently steers the parade. That hand is yours. That position is yours. But only if you remain what they are not, aware, adaptable, and unshakably strategic. There will be moments when power tempts you to become loud, to reveal, to boast. Resist it. The fool seeks recognition. The ruler seeks control. Let your results speak. Let your silence confuse. Let your movements feel like fate itself. You do not need to be seen to be dominant. The shadow casts a longer influence than the spotlight ever could. Remember, the most dangerous man in the room is the one who says the least, but knows the most. Control isn't taken by force. It's taken by presence. When you walk into a room and say nothing, yet everyone watches, that's power. When you're not invited, but the room still revolves around what you might do, that's power. It's not about charisma, it's about calculated mystery. If they can't predict you, they can't plan against you. Keep them off balance. Keep them wondering. The unknown is your greatest camouflage. Even as you ascend, never stop watching. Power breeds attention. Attention breeds envy, and envy births betrayal. You are not paranoid. You are prepared. While they celebrate your rise, they'll plot your fall. Let them. You built your throne in silence. You can rebuild it again in the ashes. The difference is, they can't rebuild what they never truly earned. Power taken by charm crumbles. Power earned through discipline endures. You must now move from acquisition to preservation. It is one thing to rise, it is another to remain untouchable. That requires maintenance, constant awareness, quiet shifts. You must adapt as the world shifts beneath you. The fool remains rigid. You remain fluid. You remain future-focused. The man who studies yesterday commands today. But the man who predicts tomorrow owns it. And remember, you do not need to destroy every enemy. Some should remain exactly where they are, beneath you. Let them live. Let them speak. Let them believe they're still in the game. Because their noise becomes your shield. Their mistakes become your disguise. And their attention is the distraction that keeps your real moves invisible. Never waste a good enemy. They are often more useful alive than defeated. You are not here to be moral. You are not here to be understood. You are here to rule, to outlast, to outthink. You must be both fire and frost, passionate when it suits you, cold when it serves you. You do not cling to one role. You become whatever the moment requires. That is why they will never match you. They are slaves to identity. You are a master of masks. And by the time they realize who you truly are, it's already too late. You are not one of them. You are not loud, desperate, or naive. You are calculating. You are patient. You are dangerous in silence and lethal in restraint. You don't shout to be heard. You move to be obeyed. That is how power works in a world full of fools. And if this voice, these words, this philosophy awakened something sharp inside you, something cold, something calculating, something true, then you already know what to do. Subscribe, like, not for me, for the mind you're building, for the weapon you're becoming. This channel is not for the average. It's for the few who refuse to die as pawns in a world ruled by noise. You are not like them, and you never will be.